Story RH, the podcast that makes a long story short.
Welcome to all.
History is made of stories.
In this episode, we'll be defining the concept of the employer brand.
A little green, a little pink, a little brainwashing, and a few photos on LinkedIn. Employer brands are sometimes no more than a smokescreen to hide a bleak reality.
But what is an employer brand, and why should we be invested in it? The employer brand, a comprehensive approach. What's the story?
France's unemployment office tells us that an employer brand is all aspects of brand image tied to a company's human resources management and hiring policies.
So it's about a company's image. It's the reputation or renown of your company on the job market, as seen by candidates as well as by current employees.
And let's not forget that the employer brand concept is also a market, one full of labels designed to guarantee that employees here are happy.
But you have to be careful, an employer brand is much more than a label. An employer brand is all of the aspects that make up your company, its identity, culture, values, in-house relations, practices, management style, HR goals, strategy, etc., and people's perception of all that.
All companies have an employer brand, good or bad, whether they've wrought it carefully or let it develop without paying it any attention at all. You have an employer brand quite simply because people have an opinion about your company.
And these people we're talking about are first and foremost your employees. But they're also the candidates you have interviewed and turned down, and the ones who did research on your company and never applied, and the list goes on.
And all these people express themselves in a much more visible way now, via social media and specialist sites like Glassdoor, for example.
So, investing in your employer brand is first and foremost about paying attention to what people say about you and how they see you. It's a question of perception, including associated biases.
If you want to improve your employer brand, you have to think of your employees as your number one ambassadors and tend to the employee experience.
Your employer brand is important for communications, but even more importantly, it's about coherency. So, the first step isn't to take care of the optics surrounding who you are, but to take care of who you really are. You have to study your identity, practices, strategy, HR policies, and the coherency that binds them together.
Once you have that baseline, then you can communicate about it. It's key to building appeal, particularly when hiring. You have to make potential candidates want to join your company.
And, actually, it goes beyond candidates. It's also about ensuring your employees are proud to work at the company, and strengthening their feeling of belonging, which is an important motivation driver, though not the only one.
To take things even further, the employer brand is at the crossroads of HR and marketing. Customers, potential customers, and even investors are increasingly interested in these topics, which are central to being a responsible corporate citizen.
As we have seen, the employer brand isn't just the result of HR actions, it's also a driver for attracting talent and securing loyalty.
Yes, it's a virtuous circle, really. You shouldn't approach developing your employer brand as an isolated marketing exercise separate from your HR policies, to the detriment of real facts.
Right, because an employer brand is first and foremost a question of perception. So actions designed to bolster it must have long-term vision.
You can't just organize a big event every now and then and hope for immediate results. To change your company's image, you have to communicate regularly, little by little, on different channels.
At the same time, you have to keep working on improving your employer brand for employees so that they'll enjoy their experience and become your ambassadors.
It's also about tending to every step in your recruitment process for all candidates, even the ones you don't end up hiring.
Right, and there's also offboarding, since once an employee leaves, they can speak well of the company or not.
As you can see, an employer brand is about much more than just communication. It's most importantly a question of coherency, authenticity, and sincerity.
To recap, the employer brand is your company's reputation as an employer. Investing in it is about doing your best to enhance that image to be more appealing and to boost loyalty. A wide range of drivers can be activated on the communications front, but you must first and foremost tend to coherency. Is that right?
Exactly right. Way to make a long story short. Story RH, the podcast that makes a long story short.